Welcome to the Discernment Drop. Today, we're going to diagnose a very specific pattern of manipulation that's playing out all around us. You need to understand, it is a game, and it's a game designed for one purpose, to make you lose your moral footing. Our goal here is simple, to see the game so clearly that we refuse to play.
So let's start with a feeling I bet is familiar to a lot of you. It's that sense that you're constantly being pushed, constantly prodded, almost goaded into a response where any reaction you have is the wrong one. You know the feeling? Like you're being backed into a corner where you're set up to lose no matter what you do.
Well, I'm here to tell you that what you're sensing is real. It is absolutely not your imagination. This isn't just the random chaos of a culture gone mad. No, it is a deliberate tactic, a repeatable strategy that has been engineered to provoke a very specific and very self-serving reaction from you. Okay, so to understand the strategy, we have to first diagnose the worldview that powers it. We need to look under the hood, so to speak, at the operating system that makes this kind of behavior seem perfectly logical to the people doing it.
What we're dealing with here are the mechanics of what's called a closed moral system. The best way to think about it is as a worldview that's been hermetically sealed off from reality. It's almost cult-like. Its core beliefs aren't theories to be tested against evidence, they are untouchable axioms, and the actual results of their ideas out in the real world, totally irrelevant.
Now, a system like this has some pretty powerful defense mechanisms. For instance, you're not allowed to challenge their definitions of words. They mean what they say they mean. You certainly can't point to the disastrous outcomes of their policies as proof of failure. Oh no. Any failure is just blamed on a lack of ideological purity. We just didn't implement the system hard enough. So, what happens when reality itself is just screaming that the model is wrong? Well, this is the key. They don't adjust their thinking. They attack the person pointing out the facts. You see, this isn't an argument anymore. It's a pathology. And I want to be clear, I use the word delusion not as some cheap insult, but as a clinical description for a mind that actively rejects observable reality in favor of its preferred narrative.
So let's examine the psychological dynamic that holds all this up. A system this fragile, this disconnected from the real world, it can't possibly stand on its own merits. It requires an external enemy to justify its own existence. It needs a villain.
Their sense of righteousness, their feeling of being the good guys, it doesn't come from their own ideas being coherent or successful. It can't. Instead, their entire moral authority is based on contrast, on simply not being the evil, designated villain that they've created in their own minds. Their goodness is defined almost exclusively by their opposition to your supposed wickedness. And what this means, in practice, is that they have an active, vested interest in their opponents misbehaving. They need it to happen. So they provoke and they poke and they bait, just hoping for a reaction. Any reaction that they can then hold up as evidence and say, see, we were right about them all along. It is textbook antagonistic escalation. All right, let's look at one of the most common and frankly, one of the most revealing tactics used to paint this picture of a villain. It's a classic psychological maneuver, and it tells you far more about the accuser than it ever does about the accused. You need to pay very, very close attention to the specific things you're being accused of, because so often these accusations are not objective observations of your behavior at all. They are confessions about their own. This is the mechanism of projection. People who know, on some deep level, that their own actions are indefensible have to externalize that guilt. They have to put it onto someone else. And the pattern becomes painfully obvious once you see it. The accusation of authoritarianism comes from the very people enforcing rigid speech codes on campuses and in corporations. The cry of violence comes from those who happily excuse or ignore political street violence from their own side. The charge of fascism, well, that comes from those who are actively merging state and corporate power to enforce their agenda. The accusation is a mirror.
You know, this isn't some new political tactic invented for the 21st century. This is an ancient moral and spiritual dynamic. The Apostle Paul described this behavior perfectly. He noted that after a society suppresses the truth, people not only commit these acts themselves, but they give their hearty approval to others who do the same. The group's approval completely replaces the individual's conscience.
So, when you put it all together, the closed system, the need for a villain, the constant projection, we can now see the trap with perfect clarity. It is laid right at your feet, waiting for you to step in it. The trap is designed so that your improper reaction becomes the justification, after the fact, for their initial hostility. It's a setup. If they can bait you into a violent reaction, they'll say, see, we told you they were violent. If you're goaded into an unlawful action, see, they're an authoritarian threat. If you say something foolish in the heat of the moment, see, they're obviously unfit to govern. Your failure is their victory.
So, how in the world do you disarm a trap like this? It's actually quite simple, though it does require immense discipline. You refuse to step in it. You win by not playing their game at all.
The proper response is not to mirror their madness. It is to become the calm, ordered, and principled contrast to their chaos. You stay lawful, period. You speak the truth plainly and without rage. You document everything. You refuse the emotional bait every single time. And you remain faithful to your God, to your family, to your principles. This is what moral strength looks like.
Because here's what happens when you refuse to play the villain they need you to be. Their entire narrative collapses under the weight of its own aggression. Your restraint and lawfulness exposes their behavior as unhinged and abusive. Your clear, moral speech exposes their rhetoric as incoherent and power-hungry. Your steadfast endurance reveals their hysteria for what it is, a desperate and illegitimate power grab. You don't have to defeat them, you simply let them defeat themselves.
And you must always remember this. The provocation itself is not a sign of strength. It is a profound sign of weakness. It's the tactic used by those who know, deep down, they cannot win on the merits of their ideas. They are loud because they are insecure. They are aggressive because they are hollow.
So, the bottom line is this. The entire point of the game is to make you lose your moral clarity. It is designed to bait you into abandoning your own principles. Do not do it. Hold your ground. Maintain your integrity, and do not let them bait you into becoming the caricature they so desperately need you to be. See the game and refuse to play.